I've walked away from more buyers than I've actually closed deals with. And that's exactly why I close over 75% of the businesses that I represent. Most business owners think the hardest part about selling a business is finding buyers. It's not. The hardest part is actually knowing which buyers are serious before you've actually wasted 6 months of your life, opened your books to a stranger, and told your key employees that the business might be sold, only to have the deal actually fall apart because the buyer was never real to begin with. You know what keeps sellers up at night? It's not the fear of a lowball offer. It's the fear of confidentiality getting blown. Employees walking out, customers panicking, all because you let the wrong person in too early. After selling and representing over 200 companies and closing deals worth more than $400 million, I can tell you the number one skill that separates a smooth exit from a nightmare is this: knowing how to spot a tire kicker from the first conversation you have before they waste any of your time, burn your credibility. So let's break down the 5 red flags that a buyer is doing to waste your time. And more importantly, what to do before it's too late. Point number 1, they won't sign an NDA without a fight. Here's what serious buyers understand. Confidentiality, it protects everyone. It protects the seller from exposure. It protects the buyer from competitors finding out that they're looking to sell. And it protects the deal itself from falling apart because word got out too early. When I represent a business, buyers don't get the name of the company, the specific location, or even the website until they've signed a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. And the NDA doesn't just say don't tell anyone. It includes no poach provisions, non-circumvention language, and specific consequences if they violate it. If a buyer pushes back on these things, they're telling you one of 3 things. 1, they're not that serious and they don't want to be legally bound to confidentiality because they just might disappear. 2, they're a competitor and they're fishing for intel and they don't want to risk the consequences. Or 3, they've never really done a business acquisition before and they don't understand how professional transactions work. I've had buyers say, hey, look, I don't sign NDAs until I see financials. My response is always the same. Then you're not seeing their financials. Because if you won't protect my client's confidentiality from day 1, I have zero confidence that you'll protect it at day 60 when the deal gets complicated. If you're selling without an advisor and a buyer resists signing an NDA, walk away. You're not losing a real buyer. You're literally dodging a bullet. Real buyers, they expect this. Tire kickers, they fight it. Point number 2, they want all the details. Point number 2, they want all the details before they've shown you they have any money. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most buyers, they can't afford to buy your business. And they're not going to tell you that up front. They're going to act interested. They're going to ask smart questions. And then we're going to request detailed financials. Because they're either trying to learn how your business works, or they're hoping to find a deal that they can creatively finance. According to the International Business Brokers Association, 88% of business sales fail because buyers aren't financially qualified. Yet most sellers, they don't even verify funds until after they've actually opened up the books. When I qualify buyers from my database, I don't just ask them if they want to buy a business. I make them show me proof of funds. At a minimum, I like to see $300,000 to $500,000 liquid in the bank before I'll even send them a blind business profile. No proof of funds, no information. And here's why that matters. Tire kickers, they love to waste time performing due diligence. They'll request every document you have. They'll ask follow-up questions. They'll schedule calls. They'll tour your facility. And then 6 weeks later, they'll tell you they couldn't secure the financing, which means they never had the money to begin with. I've seen sellers who've spent 4 months performing due diligence with a buyer, only to find out that the buyer was trying to get an SBA loan with 10% down on a $3 million purchase. And they got declined. That seller exposed everything: financials, operations, key employees, customer contracts, to someone that was never even a real buyer to begin with. Point number 3, they keep rescheduling meetings and they go dark for weeks at a time. Let me tell you what a serious buyer looks like. They typically move pretty fast. They respond to emails within 24 hours. They show up to schedule calls on time. They ask follow-up questions that show that they've actually reviewed the materials that you've sent them. Because serious buyers know that good deals, they don't sit on the market very long. And they know that they need to get their act together and keep the deal moving. Tire kickers, they will treat your business like a side project. They'll schedule a call and they'll cancel probably an hour before the call. They'll ask for financials, you'll send them, and then you won't hear anything for 2 weeks. And when you follow up, they'll say something vague like, oh, I've been slammed. Still very interested though. Here's the thing, if they're interested, they'd be making time. I don't care how busy someone is. If you're thinking about spending $3 million on a business, you find 30 minutes to have a conversation with that person. That's really not a lot to ask. I track buyer engagement religiously. If someone goes dark for more than 72 hours, without a clear reason, we're typically moving on. I don't chase people because in my experience, buyers who disappear in the early stages always disappear later. Usually right when you're about to close and they realize that they're actually going to have to wire some money. You got to set clear expectations right up front. If a buyer can't commit to a timeline or keeps rescheduling without valid reasons, don't wait around in hopes that they'll get serious. They won't. Cut them loose and focus on buyers. Look, if you're thinking about selling your business and you're realizing that you do not have the time to vet buyers, protect confidentiality, and still run your company, that's exactly why I built my firm. I don't charge upfront fees. I don't get paid unless I close the deal. And I only take deals and represent companies that I'm confident that I could get you a real buyer who will actually close. If you want to know what your business is actually worth in today's market, I'll do a full appraisal. Normally I charge $3,000 for these. Completely free, no obligation, no sales pitch, just real numbers based on over 200 transactions, 400 million in deals closed. Go to the link in the description. Let's figure out if we're a good fit to work together. Point number 4, they're asking questions that a real buyer wouldn't ask. After 16 years in this business, I can tell you within the first 5 questions whether someone's a legitimate buyer or they're just gathering competitive intelligence. Real buyers, they ask about financials, they ask about growth trends, owner involvement, and deal structure. Tire kickers, they ask about supplier relationships, proprietary processes, and customer contact information. Real buyers, they also understand sequencing. They know that you're not just going to hand over your entire customer list in the first meeting. They know that they'll get access to detailed financials during due diligence after a letter of intent is signed. Tire kickers, they push for information that they're not entitled to yet because they're trying to extract value without even making an offer. And here's the thing, serious buyers, they're going to ask hard questions. They want to know about your weaknesses. They want to know why you're selling. They want to know what keeps you up at night. Tire kickers, they'll typically ask surface level questions because they're not actually planning to run the business. They just want to understand how it works so they can copy it. Pay attention to what they're asking and when they are asking it. If someone's digging into operational details before they've even confirmed that they're financially qualified, I'm telling you, that's a red flag. Point 5, they won't commit to the next steps or even a timeline. Here's how real buyers operate. They have a plan. They'll say, I'm going to review these financials over the weekend. Let's schedule a call for Monday at 2 p.m. to discuss my questions. They'll say, I need to talk to my business partner and my accountant. Can we reconnect on Tuesday? They give you specific dates with specific actions. Tire kickers, they always leave everything vague. I'll get back to you soon. Give me some time to think about it. I'm really interested, but I just need to figure out a few things. No timeline, no commitment, no clarity on what happens next. I've learned that if a buyer won't commit to the next step in the first conversation, they're not going to commit to a $3 million wire transfer. So I force the issue. At the end of every call, I say, okay, here's what I'm hearing. You're interested, you've got the financial capacity, and you want to move forward. Let's get a follow-up call scheduled on the calendar right now. What does your schedule look like next week? If they hedge, I know they're not serious. Here's the thing about timelines. Real buyers understand that good businesses, they don't sit on the market very long. At the end of the interaction with every buyer, get a commitment to a specific next action with a specific date. If they won't give that to you, they're not real. Stop chasing. Stop hoping that they'll come back around. Real buyers, they don't need to be chased. They show up because they don't want to lose out on this deal. So here's what we just covered. Real buyers, they'll sign NDAs without hesitation. If they fight you on confidentiality, they're not protecting your deal, and you shouldn't trust them. Real buyers, they're going to prove that they have money before you even have to open up your books. No proof of funds, no financials, end of conversation. Real buyers, they're going to show up and they're going to stay engaged. If they keep rescheduling and they go dark, they're window shopping, they're not deal making. Real buyers, they ask the right questions in the right order. If they're digging into proprietary details before they've ever even made an offer, they're mining intel, not preparing to buy. Real buyers will commit to the next steps and to timelines. If they leave everything vague and open-ended and they keep their options open, that means you're not a priority. But now you know what to look for. And if you're working with the right advisor, someone who's actually done deals with their own money on the line, you'll never waste 6 months on a tire kicker again because they'll be filtered out in the first conversation. Now that you know how to identify tire kickers that would waste your time, you need to understand the next critical piece, how to protect confidentiality when you're ready to take your business to market. You can watch my video, How to Sell Your Business Without Anyone Finding Out, up here in the cards, or also there's a link in the description. Because even with a qualified buyer, one wrong move, it can blow the whole deal. Employees find out, customers panic, competitors start circling, and suddenly a $3 million business is worth $1.8 million because everybody knows about it.